Martha had become accustomed to the quiet rhythm of her life, with the echo of loneliness after her husband's death as her constant companion. Her days had fallen into a predictable routine, filled with small pleasures but mostly empty moments. That all shifted one afternoon when a knock on her door introduced her to Jake, a young delivery man. What began as a simple drop-off grew into an unexpected connection between them, rekindling emotions Martha believed were long lost. As their interactions became more frequent, their bond 34 deepened, transcending age and societal expectations. What once seemed impossible, two souls finding each other against the odds, blossomed into a beautiful, unforeseen love story. Martha rediscovered the joy of living, realizing happiness could come from the most unexpected places. Their journey wasn't without obstacles, but together they found a sense of belonging, joy, and passion that knew no limits. If you're not subscribed, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications to ensure you don't miss any videos. Martha had always considered herself strong, able to cope with the emotional emptiness left after her husband's passing. At 59, she had created a life around simple routines that helped distract her from the growing isolation. Her days were predictable, filled with mundane tasks like gardening, reading, or tidying the quiet house that once echoed with laughter and love from another time. She kept herself busy with the occasional phone calls from her adult children, who lived too far away to visit often, and brief interactions with neighbors that felt more like polite exchanges than genuine connections. Despite her efforts to push through, the loneliness persisted, becoming a companion she had reluctantly come to accept. The evenings were the hardest when the silence in her home became overwhelming. It was during one such evening months ago that Martha began ordering things online. Initially, it was for essentials like groceries, household items, and books to occupy her mind, but soon it turned into a way to break the monotony. She began purchasing items she didn't really need: candles, trinkets, and even random kitchen gadgets. It wasn't about the objects themselves, but rather the anticipation of someone knocking on her door, bringing with them a fleeting moment of human interaction, even if it was just a delivery. That afternoon felt no different, or so she thought. Martha stood by the window, watching the trees sway in the autumn breeze as she waited for her latest 2:45 order to arrive. She had purchased a book she had been wanting to read, along with a few more items to add to her growing collection of impulse buys. When the doorbell rang, cutting through the quiet, she walked to the door with the same calm, practiced routine she had developed over the months. Her expectations were modest. She assumed it would be the same middle-aged delivery man she had grown accustomed to seeing. But when she opened the door, she was surprised to find a young man, not much older than her own children. He was tall and lean, casually dressed in jeans and a simple shirt, his dark hair slightly tousled, as if he had just run his fingers through it. His face was brightened by an effortless smile, and there was something magnetic about his presence. For reasons she couldn't quite explain, her pulse quickened. "Delivery for Martha?" he asked, his voice warm and smooth, catching her off guard. Martha blinked, momentarily at a loss for words, feeling a nervousness she hadn't felt in years. There was something about him, a certain energy that filled the space between them, making the air feel lighter, more alive. His kind and curious eyes met hers for a brief moment, and in that instant she felt something stir deep within her, something long forgotten. "Yes, that's me," she finally managed, offering a smile, though she was aware of her heart beating faster than usual. As she reached out to take the package, their hands brushed lightly, and a surprising warmth spread from her fingertips, traveling through her body. It was a small, seemingly insignificant moment, but it felt meaningful, as if it marked the start of something she couldn't yet define. "Need help with that?" Jake asked, glancing at the large box she held. Before she could respond, he stepped forward and lifted it with ease from her arms. "It's a bit heavy," he remarked. Martha, surprised by his willingness to assist, hesitated briefly. She had always taken pride in her independence, in not needing anyone's help. But in that moment, she found herself grateful for his unexpected gesture of kindness. "Thank you, that's very kind of you," she said, her voice gentler than usual. Jake brought the package inside, placing it on the table with an ease that made her smile. "I'm Jake, by the way," he said, stepping back and flashing her another relaxed grin. Martha nodded, a strange warmth blooming in her chest. "Nice to meet you, Jake," she responded. "I'm more grateful for your help than you know." When Jake left, the house seemed to change, less quiet, less lonely. It had been just a simple delivery, a short encounter, but it awakened something deep inside Martha. It reminded her that even in isolation, surprises could still happen. If you're still watching this video and find these stories helpful, please comment with a number 1 below to let me know you're still with me. Thank you for spending your valuable time. He stood there for what felt like an eternity, as if wrestling with a decision he hadn't yet made. His hand hovered near the door, but Martha sensed his hesitation. The silence that followed wasn't awkward or in need of words. Instead, it felt intimate, as if they were communicating without speaking. Martha realized she wasn't ready for him to go. It had been so long since she felt this alive, so aware of someone else in her space. His closeness stirred feelings she thought had faded over the years, buried under the monotony and solitude. "Is there anything else I can do for you?" Jake asked, his voice carrying a playful tone, though it remained respectful. His eyes sparkled with quiet amusement, as if he sensed something more beneath the surface. Martha felt a warmth creeping up her neck, her cheeks flushing in a way she hadn't experienced in years. She let out a soft, nervous laugh, trying to mask the rush of emotions that had caught her off guard. She was always composed, always in control, but now, for the first time in ages, she felt vulnerable. "No, I think I've taken enough of your time," she said, though the words felt untrue even as she spoke them. Deep down, she wanted him to stay, wanted the conversation to keep going. She wasn't ready for this moment to end. Jake's smile widened slightly, a small shift in his expression that made Martha's heart race just a bit faster. There was something in his eyes, a flicker of something unspoken, hinting at the possibility of more. "Well, if you ever need anything, you know where to find me. I deliver around here almost every day," he said, his voice softer, lingering in the air as he turned to leave. And then he was gone, the door closing gently behind him, leaving Martha standing in the middle of her living room. The package he had delivered sat forgotten on the table, but her thoughts were far from it. Her mind replayed the brief encounter repeatedly, analyzing every word, every glance, every second. Her heart raced with an energy she hadn't felt in years. "He's just a boy," she muttered, shaking her head as if to dismiss the thoughts swirling inside her. But no matter how hard she tried, she couldn't ignore the feeling that had surfaced. This wasn't just a friendly gesture, was it? In the days that followed, Martha found herself thinking about Jake more often than she cared to admit. His image lingered in her mind, and every time the doorbell rang, her heart leapt, hoping it was him. She began to anticipate his deliveries in a way that made her feel almost foolish. Sometimes she ordered things she didn't even need, just to have an excuse to see him again. And every time he showed up at her door, that familiar flutter in her chest returned, stronger than before. One afternoon, about a week after their first meeting, Jake arrived with another package. But this time he didn't leave right away. He lingered, leaning casually against the doorframe, filling the small space between them with his presence. They started with small talk, but the conversation soon drifted into deeper, more personal topics. Martha, who had always been private and reserved, found herself opening up to Jake in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. They spoke about everything: life, love, loss, and the unrelenting passage of time. Jake was unexpectedly mature for his age, with a wisdom in his words that Martha hadn't anticipated. He listened intently, his gaze never leaving hers, and she couldn't help but feel drawn to him. There was a connection between them, something that felt easy and natural yet completely unexpected. As they talked, time seemed to slip away. The afternoon sun moved across the windows, casting long shadows on the floor, but neither of them noticed. For the first time in ages, Martha felt truly seen, truly heard, and that feeling left her craving more. Over the following weeks, the bond between Jake and Martha deepened, becoming more intimate with each visit. What had started as friendly chats during deliveries grew into something much more. Jake began stopping by even when he didn't have a package to deliver, just to check in or say hello. As their conversations continued, the depth of their exchanges increased, revealing vulnerabilities that brought them closer together. For Martha, Jake's visits quickly became the highlight of her day. She found herself looking forward to his knock at the door, knowing that with him, she felt a connection she hadn't experienced in years. Despite how unusual it seemed, Martha couldn't deny the bond they were forming. Then, one afternoon, Jake appeared on her doorstep, but this time, he had nothing in his hands, no packages, no deliveries, just himself. His expression was serious, and his eyes searched hers for something beyond the usual friendly greeting. "I've been thinking about you a lot," he admitted, his voice soft as though those words had weighed on him for some time. Martha's heart fluttered, a sensation she hadn't felt in ages. She swallowed hard, her voice a mere whisper. Why? Jake stepped closer, the space between them narrowing, his gaze steady and fixed on hers. There was an intensity in his eyes that left her feeling both excited and nervous. I can't explain it, he murmured, his usual confidence tinged with vulnerability. There's just something about you, Martha. You're different from anyone I've ever known. His confession caught Martha off guard, and for a moment she didn't know how to respond. For so long she had felt invisible, as though love, excitement, and meaningful connection were things of the past. But here was this young man, standing in front of her, seeing her in a way no one had for years, making her feel like the most captivating person in the world. It was a feeling she had believed was lost forever. Before she could gather her thoughts or say anything, Jake took another step forward, closing the gap between them. His lips hovered just above hers, hesitant, as if testing the waters. Then he kissed her soft, tentative, seeking permission more than demanding. Martha froze, her mind racing with thoughts of how wrong this was, how impossible it seemed, and all the reasons why it shouldn't happen. But in that brief moment, all the rational voices in her head went silent, and something deep inside her stirred. It was a part of her she thought had long been buried, a part that still yearned to be seen, desired, and loved. Without fully understanding why, she leaned into the kiss, her body responding instinctively to the warmth and tenderness she had forgotten she could feel. The kiss deepened, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Martha allowed herself to be carried away by the sheer sensation of being alive, of being wanted. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathless. Jake's eyes held a mixture of desire and uncertainty, as if waiting for her to say something, to reveal what she was thinking. Martha's emotions swirled, her heart pounding in her chest. "This is crazy," she whispered, her voice shaky under the weight of it all. Jake nodded but kept his gaze locked on hers, unwavering and calm. "Maybe it is," he said softly, "but it doesn't feel wrong." Martha's heart ached with a storm of conflicting emotions. She knew there were countless reasons why this couldn't work: their age difference, society's expectations, her fear of being judged. She had lived a life where she followed the rules, always doing what was expected, never stepping out of line. But in that moment, as she looked at Jake, all those reasons seemed to fade away. For the first time in years, she felt alive, desired, and important. Jake had reawakened something in her that she thought was gone forever. The rest of the afternoon passed in easy conversation, filled with laughter and stories shared like they were old friends. The connection between them felt as natural as breathing. And though Martha still had her doubts, she couldn't deny the way Jake made her feel. He brought a vitality and passion into her life that she hadn't felt in decades. He had a youthfulness that reignited a spark within her, something she had thought was long extinguished. If you're still watching this video and enjoy these stories, please leave a comment with a number 2 below to let me know you're still here. Thank you for your time. As their relationship quietly grew in secret, Martha found herself living in two worlds. One was the familiar life she had always known, filled with routine and predictability. The other was the world Jake introduced, one filled with excitement, possibility, and a passion she didn't realize she still had. He made her feel young again, as though she could reclaim a part of herself that had been forgotten over the years. Yet the fear of being discovered loomed over her. What would people say if they found out? How would they react to such an unconventional romance? The thought of judgment, of whispers and stares terrified her. But when she was with Jake, all of those worries seemed to vanish. He made her feel seen, valued, and important in ways she hadn't in years. And though the fears lingered, Martha was willing to take the risk, to explore the possibility of a love that defied convention and age. She didn't know where this journey would lead, but for the first time in a long time she was ready to find out. Despite the fears and uncertainties clouding her mind, Martha continued to see Jake. With each day their love blossomed, growing stronger. The challenges they faced, both internally and from the outside world, only deepened their bond. It felt as if fate had brought them together at just the right moment, when they both needed each other more than they realized. In a moment of clarity, Martha came to a powerful realization: life was too short to be consumed by the opinions of others. For too long, she had prioritized society's expectations, pushing her own happiness aside. But now, in the light of her relationship with Jake, she found a love that was real and profound. He saw her for the vibrant woman she truly was, cherishing her despite their age gap and the complications that came with it. With renewed purpose, Martha made a pivotal decision to follow her heart without apology, to embrace the beautiful and unexpected love that had grown between them. The journey was not without its challenges. There were moments when doubt crept in, whispering that she was making a mistake. But through it all, she held fast to the knowledge that what they shared was genuine and meaningful. Their love story was one of passion and spontaneity, a tale that defied societal norms. It was a reminder that love transcends boundaries and doesn't follow any rules. This story would always hold a special place in Martha's heart, a story of a 59-year-old woman rediscovering the joy and excitement of life and love with a young delivery boy. Martha's journey was not just about finding love with someone younger, it was about reclaiming her self-worth and realizing that happiness can come from the most unexpected places. As she gazed into Jake's warm, expressive eyes, she felt a sense of hope. She knew this was only the beginning of their shared adventure, one filled with potential and love. Together, they would face life's challenges, carving out a path that was uniquely theirs. As we conclude Martha and Jake's extraordinary story, it becomes clear that joy and love can come when we least expect them. Their story reminds us that life is full of surprises, and it's never too late to find happiness in unexpected places. Now I want to hear from you. What lessons have you taken from their story? What's one thing you plan to apply in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.